Hey everyone, I'm Mitch. I'm one of the pastors here at Suncrest, and you're watching episode 3 of a series of messages we're calling What the World Needs Now. Let's go.
So here in week 3, I'm going to talk about the third fruit of the Spirit, and that is peace. Let me say 3 things about what peace is to get our minds around this. First is kind of a definition. Peace is calm, right? That's probably how most people think about peace. There's kind of a calming effect. You can't be stressed and have peace at the same time. So there's something about being calm. And this is, of course, very difficult for any of you who are those type A, driven, aggressive sort of people. And I noticed this about myself because I can do that a little bit in my life. And one of the things our staff experiences from me sometimes is pressing a little bit, like, let's go, let's press. And I got to tell you, this little confession, but it'll give you a window into why I needed this time away so much. A couple weeks ago, I was talking with Jamie, who's our executive pastor. He makes pretty much everything happen around here. And we're in a relationship, the church is, with the contractor right now. I won't go into the specifics of it. But the contractor, of course, is supposed to deliver on certain things in a measurable timeline. And I sat down with Jamie a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I don't think this contractor is delivering. You know what I think we should do? We should withhold their money this month until they get back on track. And Jamie, because he's really good for me, he's like, are you sure they're running behind? I'm like, of course they're running behind. We got to get their attention. And Jamie was really nice about it during the meeting. Then I got a text from him about an hour after the meeting. And on the text was literally the timeline we had agreed to with the contractor, and they were exactly on time. And I'm like, oh, must be me. Must be me. But some of you are like that, aren't you? And some of you can actually see it in yourself. Like if the contractor was actually off time, like, okay, well, let's engage that. Like, let's not just let it be passive. But what happens when someone's on time and you're the one who's off? And you're pressing, you're not calm. Like, that's what peace is. It's calm, but it's more than just being calm. This is actually what the Greek word for peace means. It means whole. Whole. And this is a challenge for us in this world because whole is the opposite of broken, and the world we live in is broken. And a lot of our relationships are broken. A lot of the circumstances we walk into are broken. And it means it's not peaceful. But of course, this is the fruit of the Spirit that gets produced in us. So the actual question is, are we whole? To me, it's actually kind of the question of integrity. Does my external presentation match what's truly who I am internally? A lot of you were here in this room yesterday for our Ash Wednesday experience. And of course, there was a station right over here where you had the opportunity to write down the sin in your life and confess it to God. It's a very healthy thing to do. But it's always interesting to me when people are sitting in front of that to say, this sin they're confessing, do the people around them know it? Or is this a secret? Is this just hidden? And I mean, there's nothing that disrupts our peace, our wholeness, more than knowing something going on in our lives that we're not letting anyone else know because we're trying to protect their reputations. There's this lack of peace. And then there's this harmony. That's what peace is. And if you appreciate music, you appreciate harmony. Harmony is that things are in sync together. They're lining up, and it's not just a singular thing. There's a beauty to how things are working together, and it makes music that you can't make by yourself. That's what peace is. And this is my question. Is this you? Sometimes it's easier to see things from the opposite. So maybe I could say it like this. Peace is not distance or disturbance. Peace is calm, it's whole, it's harmony. It is not distance or disturbance. And this helps us think a little bit more relationally, as we should. And you and I can probably think about the relationships in our lives and think, oh, those relationships in my life. Am I a person who creates distance in relationships? Am I a person who's creating disturbance in relationships? Or am I a person who brings peace to the people who are around me? When I walk into a room, when I walk into a building, when I walk into my house, is it creating a sense of peace, or am I actually kind of the opposite of that? I'm a disruptor. And of course, you might disrupt with your words, but man, in a family, almost everyone just disrupts with their tone, with their huffs and with their puffs, and creates distance and disruption. And you might even think, well, I don't create it. I don't generate the distance or disruption within my world. And you might be content with that, but the very nature of this piece is that it's also not passive. It's not passive, which means that even if you aren't the generator of distance in relationships and disturbance in relationships, if you've just become content with it, if there's distance in your marriage or with your mom or with your son, even if you're not picking at the scab, but you've just decided that's the way it is, I'm just content with it. That's not peace. Actually, in some ways, the person who just becomes content with distance in relationships and disturbance is the most guilty of all. Because it's a passiveness that no longer aims at what God wants to do in this world. But maybe the most important thing for this series is that peace is what the world needs now from followers of Jesus. And in particular, I want to talk to those of you who are followers of Jesus here. If you're not a follower of Jesus, this doesn't apply to you. There's other steps to consider in your life before you would have to feel obligated by this. But if you are a follower of Jesus, then God's design for how the message of Jesus would spread throughout the world is that you and I would be agents of peace. That the people who are in our world, they would experience us as peaceful. Now, listen, I'm not naive about this. I talk with people about being peacemakers all the time, and sometimes people will push back, maybe appropriately so. They'll say, Greg, the world doesn't really work that way. Isn't that kind of a naive way to think about it? Don't we have to sometimes be disruptors? Don't you sometimes have to pick the scab off? Didn't Jesus flip the tables over? Yes, he did. He did. Now, I want you to see something about Jesus' life. This is very important. Never miss this. Jesus, at times, created a disruption for the ultimate purpose of getting people's attention and graciously leading them somewhere. But notice this. Study the whole scriptures. The only times Jesus created the disturbance and this disruption were with religious people. Who is in Jesus' gaze when he has to kind of get their attention by saying, you guys are snakes. You guys, you flip the tables over. It's never the lost world out there. It's never. Jesus' posture toward people who aren't followers of Jesus was never judgment. It was never a high horse. It was never announcing his political leanings to them. And it wasn't that. Every time to the world around him, the world that was broken and lost, the person of Jesus was always the one who brought peace. Always. And if you're a follower of Jesus, I need you to listen to these scriptures here. Because this has to be defining. I want this to be a mark of Suncrest Church. Philippians chapter 2, Paul says this. He says, do everything without grumbling or arguing. That's distance, that's disruption, that's disturbance. The follower of Jesus, man, if you find yourself as a grumbler, an arguer, a complainer, you just have to extract that from your life. You have to just say to yourself, no more, no more. If I'm the one who brings negativity, if I'm the one who brings the grumbling, if I'm the one who brings the complaining, especially in a world where I'm among people who aren't followers of Jesus, oh my goodness, I just have to stop that. So that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. It is not the calling of the follower of Jesus to go into a warped and crooked generation and critique it. That's not the concept. The concept is every follower of Jesus, make sure you're engaging a warped and crooked generation in a way that is peace-giving, never marked by grumbling or complaining or arguing. Never. Why? So that then you will shine among them like stars in the sky. Oh, this is a big deal, friends. If the people in your world, in your workplace, under your roof, in your online settings, experience you as a grumbler, complainer, arguer, I'm asking you at this moment, right here and right now, to say no more, no more. What the world needs now is for followers of Jesus to shine like stars in the night, that guide things, that attract things, that bring about a peace to the settings we find ourselves in. This shouldn't surprise anyone. It was Jesus in Matthew chapter 5, right at the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount, who said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." This isn't just people who feel peace. This isn't just peacekeepers. This is people who will go into a broken world and say, all right, I see it's my responsibility to make this whole. This is people who go into a world that is not harmonious and say, but once I show up, it'll be more harmonious. Blessed are the peacemakers. They'll be called children of God. When Paul writes in Romans, this is the followers of Jesus, he says, if it's possible, as far as it depends on you, followers of Jesus, live at peace with everyone. Everyone. If somehow in your mind you've gotten this confused, and you think that your calling as a follower of Jesus is to go and be angry, to disrupt things, to tell the world the way it is, I promise you that is not our role. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, you can't control anybody else, but as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And then, as if we might need a little help with this, he goes on. Watch this. Let's go back for a second. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. Now, this is important. It's not that God doesn't care about the wrongs that are going on out in this broken world. It's not that he doesn't care. Actually, one day, and this is an important thing to communicate to you whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, one day, God's wrath will be poured out on evildoers, on unrepentant people, on people who broke this world. Like, that's part of the nature of justice of this world. What's the window here? The window is that somehow I think it's my job instead of God's job. And God is trying to be very clear with us here. For it is written, God says, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. And if he is thirsty, you give him something to drink. Because what the world needs now is not a group of Christ followers complaining, standing in judgment of it, venting on social media, creating distance between us and them. Instead, for people who are very different than you, who do not believe what you believe, who do not see the world as you see it, here's the commission. When they're hungry, go help them be whole When they're thirsty, meet their need. That's what the world needs from those of us who are followers of Jesus. So, let's just do a little assessment here, okay? This will be fun. I mean, it's fun for me because I already charted it all out. You all have to walk through it right now. This is my question for you. Do the people in my world experience me as an agent of peace? This is my question. And I'm going to ask, if you're not a follower of Jesus, you can opt out on this. But those of you who are followers of Jesus, I want to really ask us to think about this. I'm going to give you a few categories for how to think about it, okay? So this is always helpful to me. Will you take both your hands just for a second and kind of put them out in front of you like this? We're going to do a scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to give you 4 different categories, and you are going to assess yourself on this question: whether the world around you in these 4 categories experiences you as an agent of peace. If you hear these categories and you're like, I'm basically Jesus, then keep all 10 fingers up. You have my permission. You have my permission. It is the Lord who will judge. And listen, you should give yourself at least a 1. No zeros in this, okay? All right, so first category. The people who live under your roof with you. Do they experience you as an agent of peace? Scale of 1 to 10. Scale of 1 to 10. Now you're sitting next to some people who live under your roof. Listen, you think I didn't think about this in advance? Of course I did. Just be honest about it. Are you a peacemaker? Are you someone who does not grumble and complain? Are you someone who would say, well, as far as it depends on me, I can't control anyone else under my roof. But as far as it depends on me, I live at peace with everyone. Second study. I want you to think of your 3 closest friends who are not followers of Jesus. The 3 closest friends you have that are not followers of Jesus. You got them in your mind? Now some of you might be sitting there like, Greg, I can't think of 3 friends I have that aren't followers of Jesus. You should let that convict you a little bit. I really hope that it does, because that's certainly not what the world needs now, is for us to separate ourselves from people who aren't followers of Jesus. But the 3 friends you have who aren't followers of Jesus, do they experience you as an agent of peace? Scale of 1 to 10. Just think about it. Category number 3. The online world. The online world. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Some of you on MySpace still? I don't know. Like, whatever it is. Scale of 1 to 10. Do the people in your online world experience you as an agent of peace? Last one. This is a little different. All of us walk into tense situations. So this isn't a group of people as much as a kind of situation. When you walk into a stress-filled situation, are you the person who brings calm to it? Harmony, wholeness. How do people experience you? Scale of 1 to 10. Now, you might think, I hope that you failed this test. I don't hope that you failed this test. I hope you've passed with flying colors. But the rest of this message is for people who are able to say, you know what, I did fail the test. Greg, this is what the world needs now, and I'm not delivering it as a follower of Jesus. In fact, I'm not even sure how I would. It's not natural to me to deliver this. And this gets us back to the beginning of what the fruit of the Spirit is all about, right? We remember this. Where does it come from? It comes from the Spirit. It doesn't come from self-discipline or harder work or, it comes from the Spirit, and we are the conduit that then pours it out. So if you don't see yourself pouring it out, the place we need to go check is the source. You remember these 2 lists from a couple of weeks ago. I want you to see it in light of peace, right? The acts of the flesh are obvious. I didn't list them all here. I just listed the ones that are the opposite of peace. The acts of the flesh are hatred, discord, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, and factions. If any part of you thinks these are healthy or qualities you'd want to reach for, the scriptures are telling you the opposite. They're actually saying you do those things when you're living out of the flesh. But the fruit of the Spirit is peace. And then it says this: those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh. They took their grumbling, complaining, disruption, distance creating, distance contentment, and they said, no more. I will crucify the flesh with its passions and desires. And since we live by the Spirit, let us live with the Spirit. Now, I'm going to read you a passage here that I think can lead you to a place of peace so that you can be an agent of peace in this world. And before I read the passage to you, I have to tell you a little bit about the person who wrote it, because if I don't tell you this, you're going to listen to this passage and be like, that's stupid. Or useless, maybe. Paul was an apostle. He wrote a lot of our New Testament. A lot of times when I describe something he's written, I'll say something like, he was a person who killed Christians, and then Christ transformed his life, and then he became a follower of Jesus, and he went to start all these new churches. But it's actually more than that. This passage I'm about to read to you, here's the context of it. Paul got in a lot of trouble with the people he used to be on their side, and then he flipped sides, and those people didn't like it, and they got him in a lot of trouble, so much so that they would drag him out to the edge of town. He's been stoned. He left for dead. He got arrested in Jerusalem, got put on trial. I don't know if any of you have ever been falsely accused or accused of, this is what he was going through. After he got this accusation in Jerusalem, he mentions that he's a Roman citizen, which means he gets a hearing in a Roman court, not just a Jewish court. And so they actually are going to now drag him to Rome. The way they get there is they chain him to a soldier. He's under arrest. They get on a boat and they go on their way. And they're in the Mediterranean Sea. The ship that he's on crashes. He's chained in the bottom of the ship. And the ship crashes, left for dead, floating in the open sea. They finally make their way to the beach, and he's still chained to this person. He makes his way eventually to Rome. He's put under house arrest, which means he's just waiting for his trial. And Paul knows that the result of his trial is going to be his death. He knows that. I just say that to you because the lines I'm about to read might seem impractical to you. But, this story from Paul, you don't kind of want to stand up and tell your sob story before Paul, right? Oh, poor Greg, he didn't get to go to Florida and stay on the beach. Compared to what Paul went through, the context with which he's writing this. But with all of that going on in his life, all the circumstances that are anything but peaceful, this is what he writes. The Lord is near. For some of you, that's what you need tonight. The Lord has not forgotten about you. The circumstances that you're facing are part of the nature of this broken world. But He has not abandoned you. He is near. So do not be anxious. Don't be stressed. Don't let your anxiety dominate you. Don't let that be true about anything. And again, I don't know if you've ever been in a place where you're kind of frustrated and someone says, oh, just don't worry about it. Usually not that helpful. And it kind of sounds like that's what Paul's saying here. Just don't worry about it. Don't be anxious. But remember where he's writing from. And he says, but in every situation, by prayer and petition and with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Now, I need you to see this. A few weeks ago, we were talking at the end of our Creatures of Habit series, and I was teaching about prayer. And I got to tell you, the response to that message was far beyond what I pictured. I asked you if you'd say, hey, I want to pray 12 minutes a day for 56 days. I'll give you some resources. Text this in. I expected about 50 people to text in. 540 people texted in. Must be a hunger for this. Some of you are in that process right now, and I hope you're starting to taste what a difference it actually makes when you pray, when you petition, when you do that with gratitude. But this last piece where he says, present your request to God. This is Paul saying, and go all the way. Open yourself up. Be revealing. Because he knows kind of the standard way for people to pray is to say, God, fix things. God, I need to get this grade. God, I need my son to do this. God, I need you to solve this health problem. God, I need to get that job. God, I'm a little underwater financially. God, and we go through all the things we need. Of course we do. But when he says, okay, petition him, but then reveal yourself to God. It's more than that. It's going one layer down. It's about the thing beneath the thing. This is a very powerful way to pray. Actually, I got a note this week from a guy named Gary in our church, and he's been doing this prayer thing. I want you to see this. Maybe you've experienced this in the same way. He said, I really feel like you hit a home run with that 12-minute prayer, and the PDF daily prayer guide is a great tool. So if you got the text, you got the prayer guide. I know it's only been a week, but I'm already feeling closer to God. Well, the Lord is near. If you stop and pray, this is part of what happens. So far, it's been enjoyable, emotional, more than a few tears. And if I let it become part of my daily routine, I can see where it can have a great impact in my life. It's just a great way to start the day, set the tone for whatever lies ahead. And I think this is so powerful. This is actually how Paul finishes the passage. He says, if you pray, petition, thanksgiving, present your requests to God, then the peace of God, the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. I don't want you to miss what he's saying here. He's saying this isn't practical. I know you like it to be practical. I know you want step 1, 2, and 3 that'll result in 4, 5, and 6. But there's something about the peace of God that is incalculable. You can't calculate it. It transcends our understanding, but it's real. But understand, this is the peace of God. This is not the peace of good. And I think this is one of the challenges for those of us who are followers of Jesus, that in this world, so often we're looking for the peace of good. I'm looking for the chance to be away with my friends and sit on the beach and hang out with other pastors that I like, just to give me a break from the chaos. And while there's nothing wrong with the good, and there's nothing wrong with you praying for a job and some financial help and a relationship that you need that's broken, and some health, this is what Paul's saying. It is not the peace of good. If in your mind you pray, if God answers, he does what he wants, you get to what you want, then you'll have peace. That's not the formula. It's not the peace of good. There's something bigger than that, more beautiful than that, more powerful than that. It is the peace of God, and it transcends all human understanding to guard your heart and stand guard over your mind in Christ Jesus. What do you do if you don't have peace in your life? What do you do if you've noticed, I'm a follower of Jesus and the people around me ought to be receiving peace from me, but they're not getting it because I don't have it? Then what you do, particularly if you have broken circumstances all around you, is that you pray until the peace comes. And you do not imagine that you'll receive peace because the situations got fixed. It's bigger than that. And so this is what I want to leave you with today. When you pray, it's perfectly okay to start this way. God, I need you to. God, I need you to give me a weekend away. God, I need you to solve this health thing. God, I need you to help us get pregnant. God, I need you to. And we have something in mind when we ask God for what we want. And there's nothing wrong with that, nothing at all. But if you want to find peace, and the peace can't be attached to whether God said yes to your prayer or not, did the thing in your life in the external way, then there's one more question to ask when you pray. You can pray, God, I need you to do this. Because if you don't, then I'm afraid that what? If you don't heal her, then I'm afraid that I'll be lost, that I won't make it, that I'll be sad for the rest of my life. God, I need you to provide this job. But if you don't, I'm afraid that I'll be embarrassed, I won't be able to provide for my family, that I won't. This is the thing beneath the thing. And if you want peace, not the peace of good, but the peace of God, then we let him do his best work here. The Lord is near.
I hope that Suncrest On Demand has been a meaningful experience for you, but I want to tell you, there's some amazing things happening in person at our building and throughout the community. So, things like Ash Wednesday, it happened last week. We saw at least 500 people go through that experience and set up their Lent in an amazing way. We have signups for Parent Brunch, which Parent Brunch signups close this Monday. So if you've not signed up yet and your kids are a part of Suncrest Kids, you should do that. If they're not, you should sign up to learn how we can partner with you as your kids grow and develop. And honestly, our weekend experience, though this is great and on demand and convenient, in-person worship experiences are so powerful and meaningful. I want to personally invite you, if you've never been to our building on a Thursday night at 6:45 or Sunday morning at 9 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. to join us. I think that it could be an amazing experience for you, your family, your friends, your neighbors, you name it. But I want to see you join us in person sometime soon.
Narrow as the road may seem, I'll follow where your spirit leads. Broken as my life may be, I will give you every piece. I hear you call, I am available. I say, yes, Lord, I am available. Here I am with open hands, counting on your grace again. Less of me and more of you. I just wanna see you move. sacrifice. Oh, use me how you want to, God. Have your throne within my heart. I hear you call. I am available. I say yes, Lord. I am available.
Every week, both in person and online, we pause everything we do to take communion. This is a moment where we focus on the sacrificial love of Jesus by taking cracker and juice in person, or whatever you have at home. Could be coffee and pancakes, just water and a cracker, you name it, something to represent Jesus' body, which was broken for us, and his blood, which was poured out for us, so that we might know real love in real life in really transformative ways. So I'm going to put a timer on the screen, and during that time, I want to invite you to pray, reflect, and take and eat when you're ready. Before you turn off this video, hit the like button if you enjoyed it, hit subscribe if you're on YouTube and you want to see more content from us, and hit share if you think this would be a meaningful video for someone that you know. Until we see you next time for episode 4 of the series of messages we're calling What the World Needs Now, I hope that you can connect on some life-changing relationships, that you can make a difference in your community and in your family, and that you might experience change in your life too.